What is Viveka? What is Viveka with reference to the working of the mind in our daily life? If I give this title to the today's talk and also the practice, it is a knowledge practice. So, the mind, I am, and the world outside. You see me. This is one image and thought pattern. But you see me. Okay, this is one thought pattern. There may be some noise outside, so your mind says, okay, I understand what kind of a noise it is. So it is indirect. It is reference. It is inference. Infer. We use in science also. And then someone knocks at the door and he says that there is a rain outside. Haven't you seen? No, I believe you. That is another knowledge. So it is easy to understand the functioning of the mind through Patanjali 5 objective states of the mind. So remember the goal. What is the goal? Goal is to awaken. How to awaken? By meditation, mindfulness, or sadhana, by practice. So Patanjali says, Yogaschitta vritti nirodha, emptying the mind of its contents, is the state of meditation and mindfulness. Which contents needs to be emptied? In the first stage, he says 5 different thought pattern, which is known as vritti. But before we understand this, let us know how the mind is working. I know you. See that. First state of the mind, I am. This I am, when I am referring, it is the mind. It is the I in the intellect. So first I am. I separated myself from you. And then I say, I know you. So you become an object. I become a subject. And what is in between? I know you. See that. Viveka, we are separating. We want to separate the different movement of the mind so that we can understand the functioning of the mind. And that should be practiced 24/7. I may be very dear to you, but I'm an object for you. I'm separate from you. Until we reach to a state where we experience there is no difference between, there is no you and I, there is no difference, the self is there, the same self is here, okay. Then I'm as dear to you as you are dear to me. So the 3 points, 3 movements of the mind, subject, object, and the knowledge between two. There is a simple operating principle of the mind. The mind can see only what is separate from I am. Then only I know you are separate from me. So object is always separate from I am. But both are mind. One is objective mind, one is subjective mind. So when we do not understand it, then you continue doing meditation, 10 years, 20 years, Om Namah Shivaya, Shivaya, Shivaya. So Shiva also goes too far from you. Shiva says, you have been nagging me for so many years without doing anything, without understanding. I am within you. I am you. Why don't you see that? So the Shiva goes too far. We go to the Himalayas and Shiva goes down to the ground. We come down to the ground, Shiva goes to the Himalayas. So that difference, the mind, we have to have a viveka, that whatever I feel, think, see, touch, it is the objective mind. And then I separate that objective world from me. It is also the mind, that me in the intellect, which I say I am. So keep the wrong notion about I am. So you have a wrong notion about the world outside. So there is no right notion, there is no right perception. Then I live in ignorance. This is known as ignorance. This is known as Maya. Maya is not somewhere very deep, somewhere in the Himalayas or in the ground or in the river. Maya is here and now. Maya is that power which separates the entire world from me. That me is Maya. That world I see separate from me is Maya. So can I become aware? I see you, you are good. Now when I see an object, then there is a good, there is a bad, there is a liking, there is a disliking, there is a pain, there is a pleasure, there is a craving, there is a seeking. What we are seeking? We are projecting happiness in the world outside. This is Maya. For we are not going to that Maya. We are restricted to understanding Viveka through the movement of the mind, through the functioning of the mind. So there are three movements of the mind. Subjective mind. When I say I know you, I know. I is subject. You is an objective mind, and the knowledge is between the two. What is that knowledge? Knowledge is awareness, knowledge, and experience. Here and now, not there and then. Can I live into that state of awareness, knowledge, and experience? So now we are coming to Patanjali. Patanjali says there are 5 objective states of the mind. The 2 objective states of the mind are right knowledge and wrong knowledge. And that right and the wrong knowledge is received in the mind by direct contact. There is a direct contact of the mind in the first 2 objective states of the mind. Or you can say the thought pattern. We have 5 different groups of thoughts, images, feelings, sensations. And the other 2 enters into the mind and causes the trouble due to the indirect contact with the mind. And the 5th one, neither direct nor indirect. So what are those 5 objective states of the mind? They are known as vrittis. What are those? Praman means right knowledge. Wrong knowledge means viparyaya, explained by Patanjali. So these two have a direct contact with the mind. So knowledge gained by the direct contact with them. Oh, you are Sargi? No, I'm not Sargi. I am Taurus. See that. Wrong knowledge. So wrong knowledge came in for a while and it was removed. So when the mind has a direct contact with the objects, people, place of the world outside, and direct contact creates a wrong notion, wrong knowledge, this is one type of thought pattern. We'll go deeper and then you will see, oh, this is it. This is so simple. And the right knowledge, factual, observed through the mind and the sense organ. So two types of thought pattern comes from the direct contact with the mind. Third and the fourth, indirect contact with the. What is indirect contact? What are they to? Imagination. That is known as pramana viparya. Third is known as vikalpa, imagination, fancies. I am a billionaire. Now I bought a plane and I am flying. Even with eyes open, we see these imaginations. So it is a conscious thinking. You see that thought pattern, consciously thinking. I enjoy my life. I have my minimum desires fulfilled, and still, what I have not achieved in the world outside. I create an imagination from the past experiences consciously, and then I live into that. There is no direct contact. See that? Mind has a fancy. And you'll be surprised that this crazy mind does 60 to 70% of the imagination every day. This is the greatest blockage to meditation. But we'll talk about that. So now the fourth one is memory. Memory. I enjoyed pasta yesterday. Let me enjoy it again. See that? I enjoyed the physical pleasure. Let me try it again. Memory. So memory means the thought that is produced by the previous experiences. Indirect contact. And the fifth is, what Patanjali says, is sleep. How the sleep is a thought pattern? How can we understand that? There are no thoughts in the sleep. We all understand, we all agree. If there is a thought, then it is a dream. If there is a thought, then I am in a waking state. Patanjali was a great master. Codifier. He compressed all these into 195 formulas known as sutras. And every sutra is a compressed file. When you open it, you find hundreds of files. So, for understanding here, what he says, that thought pattern are there in the sleep, but we don't recognize because the brain is not translating those impressions into a thought. So we don't recognize, we don't experience there is any thought in the sleep, but the thoughts are already there. 5. Objective states. So what Patanjali says? First he says there are two kinds of classification. Second kind of qualification, every thought that enters into the mind, had entered, or past thoughts are there, can be classified into 5 categories. 2, direct contact. 2, indirect contact. 1, neither direct nor indirect. Sleep. Second classification, that all these 5 groups of the thoughts are either painful or non-painful. Every thought, any group, any of the 5 groups. Right perception. I look at a person, mind says he's enemy, painful. Mind says no, he is friend, non-painful. So he says non-painful because it does not, happiness is not there. That's why he says non-painful. He does not talk about the pleasure. Because if he talks about the pleasure here, then we will mess up. We simply say 2 classifications. 5, every thought can be classified into 5 categories, and every category is either painful or non-painful. Viveka. What we are understanding, the movement and the functioning of the mind. Who says I am? Mind, not me, not the real I. Who says, here are you? Mind. Who knows that you are here and I am here? Mind. So, can I become aware of this fact? 24/7. Well, in the beginning we may forget and still, it is the mind. Mind says like, mind says dislike, mind says I'm good, mind says I'm more intelligent than other, mind says this, it is all mind. Mind. All knowledge and experience are happening in the mind. All experiences, knowledge are happening in the mind. Now, if I say due to subjective and objective states of the mind plus the knowledge it gains, the 3 movement of the mind. First, the mind claims I am here, then the mind claims you are there, claim. Mind does not know who am I, mind does not know who you are, and then the mind says, come on, I know you, I know myself. What is this? This is ignorance. Go a little deeper. So can we remove the wrong notion? I see you. I know you by name, by the shape of the body. The shape and the color and the speech from where the knowledge is coming? From the sense organ in the mind. Okay, and then I superimpose, you are my son, you are my daughter, you are my wife's, another superimposition. Then the same I am start claiming, because if you are my husband and a wife, then you should be following these rules. Third superimposition. Fourth is, then I am say I am more powerful than you, then I force you to do what I like.
But
superimposition, layer by layer by layer by layer, and ultimately I fall into ignorance. Here is a take, very important. When Patanjali says empty the mind of these 5 groups of thought pattern, whether it is painful or non-painful, don't worry about it. Now see that what happens. The mind is there, and these are 5 thought patterns. It is gone. So you experience the first stage of emptiness. It is emptiness and still it is not emptiness. Just guess it. Understand it. All these 5 patterns has gone. Now you know that these 5 patterns have gone. We will see how it goes. But now mind, I feel emptiness from these 5 groups of the thoughts that triggers me to think more and act more in the world. So when you physical action is coming from these 5 groups of thoughts, and now they are not there. So what will happen? Body becomes like a statue. Why? There is no action. Breath is natural, normal, and you experience the sense of emptiness. But it is not emptiness fully. There are 4 or 5 stages of that emptiness. Now, why it is not emptiness? This portion belongs to the past impression, previous birth, existing impression in this birth. Because that impression is known as vasana, is not known to the mind. It cannot be known. Its effect is known. So what it means by this emptiness, the first stage of emptiness, the mind is empty of the 5 thought pattern. Now the mind has nothing to physically act, trigger the body and feel pain, likes and dislikes, But at the same time you have been practicing, so there are positive impressions there. What are those positive impressions? They are of peace and happiness, of emptiness. But you are also aware of the impressions. You may become aware of certain impressions, but they are not translated into 5 categories of the thoughts. So that becomes an advanced practice of meditation. Still something is left. Still something is left. Now we have to also understand how to achieve that state. So the Vyasa, who has written almost all the majority of the principles of Eastern wisdom, understand today also that what is Eastern wisdom? We say it is darshan. So that gives us an answer that why Patanjali says 5 groups of the thought pattern has to be drawn out completely from the mind. Why? So the answer is hidden. Answer is hidden in the darshan. Darshans mean direct perception. What is direct perception? The self knows the self by itself. So when I say Eastern wisdom is an instrument of knowledge to discover the self. So that Eastern wisdom is darshan. Darshan literally means right knowledge without any instrument of mind and the sense organs. Pay attention. You can instantly move into the meditative state. So what Patanjali is saying? That all the 5 groups of these thoughts, knowledge of 5 groups of these thoughts comes indirectly from the mind and the sense organ, yes, then it means that I don't need mind and the sense organs. The moment you are aware that you don't need this mind and the sense organs, the mind withdraws inside, and the Eastern wisdom and the darshan is realized. You instantly experience that sense of emptiness. So the first stage of mindfulness is done. So we are understanding that why Patanjali says all these thoughts that we recognize directly in the first two vrittis, indirectly in the next two vrittis pattern, and the fifth neither directly or indirectly. It means that is the state of the sleep. It means the meditation is not a sleep state. Very clear. See that. Just an understanding is required. I'm speaking. Reference is the mind, the I in the intellect. Then I can see what is beyond this I. When I am speaking to you guys, it means I'm aware it is the objective mind. I'm somewhere behind. And you enter into that state. That is why sometimes Master says it is here and now. Like you drive from your office to the home, and when you enter into your street, you casually, by default, you leave the neighbor's home and you enter into your home. Why? They are not you. Similarly, any thought, feeling, experiences that gives a knowledge of separation. What is that separation? There is an I and there is the world outside. That feeling, that awareness comes from the mind. So I simply look at it and then I enter into the home. Now, how that mind, another question, how that mind reaches to the state of emptiness, what is the quality of that mind? What is that quality of the mind? So the great master Vyasa, who wrote a commentary on the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you see that sutra means a condensed and compressed formula, and it is the work of a genius. You know, in computer world, even a common man can compress all the files. You can guide virtually. You have 100 files and you can create a GIF file. Okay, I'm sending you the GIF file. So we understand how to open all those folders. We have already understood there are 25 files. You cannot send them separately, to send them compressed. So what is the understanding about the sutra? Sutra is a work of a great masters and genius. We have many sutras. We have Brahma Sutra, we have Yoga Sutra, we have Sankhya Sutra, we have Mimamsa Sutra, we have Brahma Sutra, many sutras. All are written by different masters and the work of a genius. One thing to understand that to open the sutra we need a commentator who knows all the principles, who has realized the same enlightened state, And that master is Vyasa, who has written Vedas and majority of the Upanishads and dialogue. He has given a commentary. So obviously it has to be an authentic commentary. So he says this mind lives in 5 subjective states. First, we have covered 5 objective states. We have understood when these 5 objective thought patterns, whether it is painful or non-painful, we don't need them. And the emptiness is there, so all these 5 patterns are gone, and we experience that emptiness on the surface. This is the first stage of mindfulness, which Patanjali says it is sampragyat samadhi. And it has 4 stages that we will take later. But who reaches? What is that quality of the mind? So from that quality of the mind, we understand through the commentary of Vyasa and through our daily experiences also. Because once we understand the principle, we have a daily experience. So there are 5 subjective states. And what are those 5 subjective states? What are those 5 subjective states? Wandering mind. I feel mind is wandering, so this is happening within me. That is why it is subjective. Oh, mind is forgetting everything. Forgetfulness. I experience. You cannot. Nobody else. It is my state, second state. The mind gets obsessed with something. Third state. Fourth state is ekagra, one-pointedness. And the 5th is niruddha, the emptiness state. So mind is searching the mind that there is definitely a 5th state, that is emptiness. Total emptiness. How beautiful the explanation is. So it means mind is wandering here and there in association with 5 objective thought patterns. Oh, it means I have to correct first this wandering mind. The wandering mind cannot achieve the state of meditation, even though it is wandering because of the 5 objective thoughts, or maybe indirectly, in direct contact with the thought. So what happens in direct contact with the thought? I feel alone in my life. In direct contact. The world is there with you and you are feeling alone. I am ready to commit suicide because I am lonely. Crazy stuff. The obsessed mind. Obsessed mind, the 3rd state of the mind, finds that nobody, he feels it is not so. He has created that feeling in his mind that nobody loves me. Why should they love you? See that? So I instantly understand, oh, that guy is moving like this, lives in that subjective state. And I know. So first is the wandering state of the mind. We cannot achieve. Yoga means we cannot achieve the state of mindfulness. Second is a kind of a forgetfulness. We cannot achieve that state. The 3rd is crazy obsession. We cannot achieve that. What is that 4th state? 4th state we say ekagra, one-pointedness. Is your mind looking to that state of emptiness? That is the goal of the mind. Not the goal in life. Do whatever you want to do. Remain in that state. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. How it is possible? I can give you hundreds of examples. You are obsessed of buying a smartphone, which is upgraded version. You sleep with it. You have an information that is going to be, the shop will be open tomorrow to buy that phone. You sleep with that phone. You wake up in the morning, you have created an impression, and that impression triggered your mind. You have a right perception, even though it is a right perception. Here is a shop, now it is 10, shop will open at 11, it will take me 45. All these are right perception. You go there and you buy. This is one-pointedness, but because the mental state is obsession, that is why we cannot achieve mindfulness. We do have a one-pointedness in the wandering state. I'm going little deeper. You have to listen to it again and again and understand and experience that. What do you mean by one-pointedness in a wandering state? Not possible. Yes, it is 100% possible. But that wandering is done with the right perception. No, I don't understand. Simple example. You sit in a car on a driver's seat. First point of wandering. Then you put the key or self-start, second point of wandering. Then you put your foot on the paddle, third wandering. Then you look in front, fifth. Then you look into the rear mirror, sixth. Then you look into the side mirror. Then you start the engine. Then you do the reverse. You come onto the street. You see how many wandering. Mind is constant. If the mind is not wandering with the right perception, I cannot drive. So what people start thinking, let me control the mind, suppress the mind, continue chanting louder than what the mind is, where the mind is wandering. Well, as long as you are chanting loudly, definitely other thoughts will not come. In the moment you stop, the same thing comes up. Viveka is required. Understand that Viveka. Viveka means separating the mixture. Why separating the mixture? To know the things rightly, correctly. When I know, means awareness is there, knowledge is there, and experience is there, and I'm in mindfulness here and now. So, the wandering state. Second is forgetfulness. I forget the things, We normally tend to forget the things. So, forgetfulness. Third is craziness, obsession. Only the fourth state of the subjective mind can achieve the state of mindfulness. So one master says that one-pointedness or ekagravastha is that you are a higher level of a seeker. Seeker knows the goal of life. Seeker knows the subject matter, and the seeker knows that the moment any thought pattern enters there, it is the impurity of the mind. No worries. You continue mind your journey. I'm away from you. So you connect. The seeker constantly connects the knowledge coming from the teachings of the masters of Eastern wisdom to have a right and the direct perception of the self, by the self, achieving a state of mindfulness. Let me translate in a very common language. I use instruments of transportation, that means car, driving from my office on a highway, looking at beautiful scenes. I saw also an accident, but my goal remains to reach home, and if the road is blocked, I find the other way and ultimately reach to the home is the state of mindfulness. So, now summarize that understanding. Mind has three movements. Let me say, in other words, the mind divides into three, by which we know the world outside and so-called me. Subjective mind, objective mind, and the knowledge between. I experience deep relaxation where object is in the body. I feel calmness in the mind. Where is the object? Mind. What is the experience? Calmness. Three movements, three functions, constantly going on. Because it is constantly going on and we don't pay attention, the mind starts wandering, forgets, and falls into obsession. Supported by the 5 groups of the thought pattern that we just understood, pramana, viparya, pramana and viparya, right and wrong knowledge, direct contact with the mind. Vikalpa smriti, indirect contact with the mind. Neither indirect nor direct. 5th one is the sleep. And now all the 5 states are dictated by wandering state of the mind, forgetfulness, and obsession. That is why Patanjali says, empty the contents of the mind. But here is a catch. He does not say empty all the contents of the mind. Why? Because he wanted to show that there are early stages of mindfulness. What are the early stages? Your focus, your mind is moving inside, all the 5 contents are gone and still you are aware of the impressions. It may surface, but you are also aware and you have an experience of emptiness, calmness, peace and joy and happiness in that 4 different stages of mindfulness, which Patanjali says sampragyat samadhi. So he says that is the first stage, and the last stage, the 5th state of the mind, the niruddha, the total emptiness, all the impressions are also gone. Why it has to go? Because these impressions are hiding the self on the other side. So when all these impressions are dropped, the self is reflected in the mind. The self knows the self. This is what Patanjali says in the 3rd sutra, tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. Then I discover my essential nature. So what happens to the world outside? World will remain as it is. There is no change in the world outside. Now, even if I enter into the state of mindfulness, answer is yes. Why? You are working on yourself. You are not working on the world. And the moment you start working on the world outside, the mind is already outside. Mind will return with the three movements. Then it will have two direct contact, two indirect contact, and the sleep. And then the mind will start wandering. It will start forgetting. It will have an obsession. So we start living into the same state. How simple it is, how easy it is. But first we should understand it clearly. I have repeated again and again, our masters say janati. First know it before you venture into practice. Even before practicing, first you know the principle, then you understand it. So what is that understanding? Let me see, while listening to me, even if you have thought, categorize those thought patterns. Don't believe it is you. Classify those thought patterns here and now. And the moment you classify, the mind loosens the bond of bondage. Here and now, it becomes an instant meditation or mindfulness practice. Janati. Second part is the ichhati. So once I have understood what I have understood, I have understood 5 objective type of thought pattern, either painful and non-painful. I need not to go for it. I need not to crave for it. Whenever it comes to the mind, let it come and go. At the same time, I should look inside. His mind is wandering because of these 5 thought patterns. His mind is forgetting because of these 5 thought patterns. His mind is obsessed because of the thought pattern. Oh, so let me maintain my awareness separating the 5 objective states of the mind. Separating. How I separate myself from you? Can I do it physically? No, I'm already separate. I know it. Why I should separate? I'm already know it. It's a separate. I know it. I'm aware. I experience it. Can I know it? Can I experience it? What? That all these thoughts are not me. Even though I categorize them for the sake of clarity and understanding, for the sake of preventing these thought patterns to create another wrong perception. So I said, you stay there, you stay there, you stay there. And when you live into that state, you experience the sense of emptiness in an effortless nature, in that state of mindfulness. That is what happens in the journey of mindfulness. We'll talk about there are 4 stages of this mindfulness, which is known as sampragyat. Sampragyat means what? Pragya. I'm aware of an object. What is that object? It may be joy. I may be experiencing a strong fragrance. I may experience the touch of an ocean. Millions of experiences. But those experiences are also categorized in the 4 stages of mindfulness by Patanjali. But after that, then we enter into the sampragyat samadhi. No pragya, no object is there. No object. When the no object is there, the self is there. When the self is there, then the self knows the self by itself, not through the instruments of the mind and the sense organ. What that is known as darshan, which I say Eastern wisdom. That is the journey of. So viveka is required. Viveka. Viveka is required. So again you see that's what, in later we will also understand that viveka is 100%. The mindfulness is here and now. That viveka is 60%, 4 stages of mindfulness is there. That viveka is 50%, we have to make an effort. We have to make an effort. So there are many. Now see in reference to the vairagya or the dispassion, 100% viveka leads to asampragyat samadhi, the highest state of meditation. 60%, 4 stages. And 60% means 60% dispassion is there. Why 60%? Now I could see the objects deep inside in that meditation, they are subtle, or I introduce a mantra, I introduce any object, I introduce my image of my master, I introduce anything. The object is there. So 60%, so object means what? It pertains to the world, that keeps the mind divided. So we can still achieve that state of mindfulness by passing that division, but still the division remains there. In a very subtle form. It has become very subtle. It has, you see the matter outside and you see the electron. So at the level of electron, that awareness is still there. What is that? That I am, and here is the object of meditation. So that undergoes a change completely. And you reach to the fifth state of, fifth say, or the highest state. Another last point that is also very important. As long as the mind is aware and driven by these 5 group of thoughts, either painful or non-painful, dictated by the first 3 states of the mind, the wandering, forgetfulness, and the memory. These 8 states of the mind always looks at the world outside. Where the self is not present. And when the self is not present there, we cannot discover the reality. So even though Patanjali says the mind has withdrawn inside, you have left the gross and the physical and the material things, your mind is now having a right perception, you don't recognize a woman as wife, the wife has been stripped out. So it is a subtle vision. Even the women know. Behind the women you realize that it is only because of the difference of maybe one sex organ. I have given the name man and the women. So subtle perception, you see that you go a little deeper. You see as a human being, no, you go still deeper. So those subtle experiences translates into variety of experiences in meditation. How interesting the topic is, Charles?
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure, it's interesting.